Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the playbook of a true game changer, David Falk. He's the super agent who looked at Michael Jordan and didn't just see a basketball player. He saw a global corporation. And in doing that, he completely changed the business of sports forever.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. Before David Falk came along, being a sports agent was a pretty straightforward transactional gig. You know, get the best salary, maybe snag a couple of local car dealership ads, and that was about it. Falk? He blew that model out of the water. He saw the team contract as just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. The job wasn't about finding deals anymore. It was about being a strategic brand architect.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the old world that he completely disrupted. Then we'll get into his core philosophy, walk through his two most powerful plays, and wrap it all up with the principle that built his entire empire. Always playing the long game.
First things first, let's set the stage. We need to understand the world Falk was about to turn completely upside down. Back in the early 80s, an agent's job was simple and, honestly, pretty limited.
The entire focus was almost exclusively on that team contract. Endorsements, yeah, they were seen as a nice little bonus, a secondary thing. The whole strategy was short-sighted, really just focusing on the next negotiation, not the arc of an entire career. And because of that, there was just massive potential value being left on the table.
So into this world steps David Falk, and he comes in with this new, brutally honest philosophy. It was the bedrock of his whole approach, and he called it the bald truth.
And this right here, this was the absolute core of it. No sugarcoating, no fluff. Falk was convinced that the only way to really win for his clients was to tell them what they needed to hear, about their real market value, their potential, their brand. For him, being vague was a weakness, brutal honesty was a strength.
This slide really captures Falk's big idea. He wasn't just Michael Jordan's agent. In his mind, he was the CEO of Michael Jordan Incorporated. He had this radical belief that a star player could become a brand that was even bigger than their team, and that his job was to architect and manage every single piece of that brand.
All right, let's get into his first major play, the one that perfectly shows this philosophy in action. It's the deal that changed absolutely everything. Building the Air Jordan brand with a company that, at the time, was a serious underdog, Nike.
So get this, he didn't just chase the easy money. Back then, Converse and Adidas were the kings of basketball, but they weren't interested in giving a rookie his own signature line, so Falk said no thanks. He demanded not just a shoe, but an entire brand identity. And, this is key, he structured the deal around royalties, a piece of the upside, not just a flat fee. He even came up with the name himself, Air Jordan.
And this is the critical distinction, right here. A standard endorsement deal is just short-term cash. Falk saw that the real, long-term value wasn't in the upfront check, it was in the structure of the deal. Royalties meant Jordan got a piece of every single shoe they sold. This created a long-term partnership with basically unlimited upside. Falk was building an asset, not just cashing a check.
This brings us to Falk's ultimate weapon. It's the one principle that made the Nike deal, and pretty much all his other strategies, even possible. And that is creating and then ruthlessly using leverage. Now for Falk, leverage wasn't just about having options. It was about creating a situation where the other side is more afraid of not making a deal with you than they are excited about the deal itself. It's about knowing more than them, controlling the clock, and making them feel all the pressure.
Falk believed that the answer to this question was the single biggest difference between a good deal and a truly great, legendary one. It wasn't about being the smartest person in the room or even having the best product. It was something way more fundamental.
And there it is. The answer is the credible threat of no. By being able to walk away from the big, established shoe companies and mean it, he forced the underdog, Nike, to come to the table with a revolutionary partnership that the others would have just laughed at.
And look, this wasn't just luck. He didn't just stumble into this power. He built it, piece by piece. He cultivated real alternatives. He controlled the story to create scarcity and demand. And he was just relentlessly prepared. He knew the other side's pressures and weaknesses better than they did. And all of that, together, is what made his threat to walk away 100% believable.
Okay, finally, we have to understand that Falk's playbook wasn't just about winning one negotiation. It was about building a career, a brand that could keep winning for decades. Falk looked at reputation like an investment. Every single deal either added to it or took away from it. He knew that being known as tough but fair created trust. And that trust is an asset you just can't buy.
He called it compounding capital, because that trust made every future negotiation that much easier.
You can almost call it reputation economics. I mean, when people trust you, it just reduces all the friction in a negotiation. It gives you more bargaining power before you even sit down at the table. This whole long game approach meant he was always optimizing for lifetime brand value, not just the next paycheck.
All right, so let's boil it all down. If you're going to remember just 5 things from the David Falk playbook, make it these. 1. Build real alternatives before you negotiate. 2. Think long-term brand equity, not short-term cash. 3. Win with the structure of the deal. Royalties, equity, control. 4. Control the timing and the story. And 5. Above all else, protect your reputation because it is your most powerful form of leverage. And so that leaves us with one final thought. A question for you. In your own career, what does playing the long game look like? What's the short-term cash you could maybe say no to right now in order to build something with real, lasting value?